On Larry King Now, my conversation with rapper Vic Mensa.
Working with Roc Nation, Jay-Z's company, would be like working with my own people. It didn't feel like I was stepping into a room of vultures in suits. Nothing against suits.
I don't wear them.
America uses drugs and prescription drugs like none other, you know? So we got a lot of people in our country and in our culture that are trying to cover something up. And I wanted to...
trying to feel better.
Everybody's trying to feel better. I think that violence in Chicago is often sensationalized and it's turned into a headline and it's used for the benefit of people in the media and people in power. It's looked at as very one-dimensional.
Plus,
when you have somebody that's just such a bold-faced liar, as Trump is, diplomatic discourse is kind of futile.
Waste of time.
Waste of time.
It's next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest, Vic Mensa, the Grammy-nominated rapper hailing from Chicago, Illinois. Following the release of his 2013 mixtape, Inane Tape, Vic emerged as one of music's most sought-after and critically acclaimed acts. He's since been signed to Jay-Z's Roc Nation record label and worked closely with artists like Kanye West, Chance the Rapper, and Pharrell, just to name a few. Vic's revealing new full-length album, The Autobiography, is available now. You've been working on this for a long time. How does it feel to finally have the world know it's around?
It's very releasing. The album is such a personal endeavor that I almost feel like I made a lot of close friends in people that purchased and really are living with the album, because its content is often so personal that it's things I wouldn't tell somebody unless I was close to them.
What made you do it?
It was really my way of coping with everything I was talking about and being able to come to terms with it, learn from it, grow from it. I felt like I had to be transparent and confessional in order to move past.
So it's really cathartic.
Very cathartic.
How did the connection come with Jay-Z's Roc Nation label?
I was lucky to find out that working with Roc Nation, Jay-Z's company, would be like working with my own people. It didn't feel like I was stepping into a room of vultures in suits. Nothing against suits.
I don't wear them.
But like I said, you know, it's a record label helmed by arguably the greatest rapper. So there's an understanding of artists there that I find to be, you know, very freeing in a corporate setting, especially.
You recently said, I really did make a conscious effort with this album to try to be understood. I was leaving no stone unturned. I felt like I had to be unapologetically me. I had to be able to tell all my truths.
The autobiography concept gave me license to use literary tools like allusion and flashback and foreshadowing. So there's times that I might be in the middle of a chronological storyline, but throw in memories, and I go back to a memory from 5, 6 years earlier, and then snap right back into the present day.
Like a book.
Like a book. So oftentimes it is in chronological order, though.
You're very open about struggles with depression, drug dependency. Was that hard to sing about, talk about?
I found it actually easy to talk about, easier to talk about than cliche rap subjects and materialistic things, because, you know, I'm talking about the things that are closest to me, the things that I've experienced firsthand. And for me, that was easier to pull reference and pull real emotion than, you know, maybe just making songs about partying.
Were you depressed as a young man?
I started to deal with mental health issues in high school, and more so as I became 18, 19, 20, and stepping into adolescence. So these are things that have been close to me for a long time.
How did you treat it?
Well, you know, I didn't for a long time. And a lot of this album is about those paths that I went down trying to self-medicate. And when you see something on there, a song called Rolling Like a Stoner, it's maybe on its exterior kind of hedonistic and like just excess and drug use, but underneath that surface is something that I was trying to heal, pain I was trying to heal by self-medicating. And I think a lot of people are doing this right now. As you see, we have an opioid epidemic, and I mean, we've had, America uses drugs and prescription drugs like none other, you know? So we got a lot of people in our country and in our culture that are trying to cover something up, and I wanted to...
trying to feel better.
Everybody's trying to feel better.
In the black community, things like depression and likes are played down?
100%.
Because?
Well, as black men, there's an idea of masculinity that oftentimes is misleading, that we've been led to believe is how we have to act to assert ourselves, you know? I mean, I'm not gonna go down a full history lesson,
but macho.
you know, but the traditional avenues for being a breadwinner and being a man in the black community were stripped from us. And providing for your family and bringing home the bacon for your family is something that was often like out of reach for black men. So we had to develop certain other ideas of masculinity that often are very hyper-masculine, very aggressive, and leave no room for vulnerability. And I believe that leads us to a place where we're not able oftentimes to be open and be honest about things going on in our brain, because we don't want to appear weak, and you feel that if you give any sign of weakness that you'll be torn down.
Do you think that'll get better as society molds together more? You're the product of an intermarriage. There's a lot more intermarriage now than 20 years ago. Do you think that's going to change?
I think it's going to change if we change it, and that's why I'm trying to take the steps that I take to just open up the conversation and destigmatize certain things like mental health in the black community, because it's not going to change if we just allow it to fester.
How long you been sober?
I haven't been using drugs for a year and a half, maybe.
How'd you stop?
I had somebody in my life that was selfless enough to look past the hurt that I caused them from a hurt place and kind of help me to be honest about what was going on in my life and seek psychiatric help and start talking to a therapist for real, because I was in the same boat. I was like, man, I'm not gonna talk to a therapist. I'm not crazy. I'm not, that. And somebody was able to, this woman in my life was able to just, help me go seek help and help myself.
Hasn't your success helped?
I don't think success helps things like that at all. I think a lot of times it can just magnify what's wrong. You see artists passing away too early from drug addiction and suicide, and Chester from Linkin Park just killed himself. And success doesn't help those things. Success takes whatever you have and magnifies it, puts it underneath the magnifying glass. Whatever's going on.
Makes it worse.
Yeah, it just makes it bigger. And so if there's issues, the issues get bigger.
Next, Vic Mensa on growing up in Chicago, navigating the music business, and maybe a little politics. The album is The Autobiography. We'll be right back on Larry King Now. We're back with Vic Mensa. The new album is The Autobiography, as told by Vic Mensa. It's done in book style, and it's a great idea. The contents are very revelatory. You grew up in Chicago, a city that produced some of the great artists in your genre. What's special about Chicago? You even have South Side on your neck.
It's a good place. I think Chicago is unique from New York City and LA in that you don't grow up with Hollywood or stardom in reach, really, you know? You're not seeing billboards for the newest Netflix special, and I'm not saying everybody that's in New York does, but you're definitely not seeing Puffy hopping out of Maybachs. It's just like, it's very...
Midwest.
It's Midwest, it's authentic, you know, it's concrete, and I feel that the perspectives that come from Chicago are often guided by that, with that kind of like icy realism.
City of big shoulders. What about the rap on Chicago, that it's the violent city? The President Trump attacks, he uses it as example all the time. People getting killed. The mayor, Emanuel, he won't obey a federal law that requires to turn in immigrants. How do you look at that?
I think that violence in Chicago is often sensationalized, and it's turned into a headline, and it's used for the benefit of people in the media and people in power. It's looked at as very one-dimensional without really observing the factors that have created this violence and observing the fact that you can live an entire life in Lincoln Park, Chicago, and never hear a gunshot, but be in a different neighborhood and hear gunshots every night. So you have these communities that are stripped of everything. They don't have organic food. There's no produce. The school systems are broken. The schools are closed. And the textbooks in the schools that are open are from the 1980s. And you have these people in a toxic environment that grow up to do toxic things. I think it makes perfect sense. I don't think it's good in any sense of the word, but it makes sense, and it's by design.
Donald Trump, is he a disappointment or is as expected?
I think he's as expected. You know, I would say that he's clearly in office for, you know, his personal gain and for his financial gain, and we don't know the full game yet, but there's a lot of nepotism going on, and it's hardly presidential. But I had to come to terms with the fact that nobody getting into office as the president of the United States is really like my candidate. Nobody's really representing me or my people. So our win is not on that stage.
Didn't Obama do that?
I don't really believe so. I live 5-6 blocks away from Barack Obama's home, and so I watched my neighborhood not improve, and my city not improve, and my community not improve, maybe get worse in the time that Obama was in office. And I recognize that he's the president of the United States, but I don't think that Obama's agenda was very often, you know, to represent the people and do well by the people. I feel like he was oftentimes very careful with what he said regarding race.
If you met with Trump, would you discuss these things with him?
I don't have any interest in meeting with Trump.
No?
No. I mean, you know, I think that when you have somebody that's just such a bold-faced liar, as Trump is, diplomatic discourse is kind of futile.
Waste of time.
Waste of time.
When we return, Vic will dish on secret talents and biggest risks and strange fan encounters in a game of You Only Knew. The album is the autobiography. We'll be right back. Don't click away. We're back with Vic Mensa, a great guest. Great to have him with us. How'd you find music?
I found music through musicians, just people that impacted me, like Tupac and Common and Kurt Cobain and Jimi Hendrix and Prince and David Bowie and all these people that really made me feel a way as a kid, and I wanted to impact people the same way.
How did you break in?
Just by being me, just staying true to myself and making music that was different from other people.
You also, in the album, discuss the trials, tribulations of growing up on the South Side. Your mother was from upstate New York. You write she's of German and Irish descent. My father was from Ghana. I live in a two-parent household. I start to get older, I'm kind of being hit back and forth like a ping pong ball because on one hand, America views me as this general blanket term, black, at home I'm me, but I'm half African. Do you still live with that?
100% I still live with that, but I think that I've been able to, in adulthood, turn that into a strength. So as opposed to like a sense of suffering. And I'm able to have a perspective that's dualistic and can see the inner city for what it is, but also look from the outside in.
You've been profiled by police?
Haven't we all?
How'd you respond, though, at an early age to that?
The police. That's what happened. I started listening to NWA and I started identifying. Before that, I didn't really understand certain things about rap music, and I didn't understand the aggression a lot of the time. And around the time I'm 12 years old and I start realizing that I'm being treated differently than, you know, my white friends, is just when that switch went off and that aggression came alive in me.
Are you already looking forward to making new music?
100%. I've been thinking about new music constantly and just trying to put myself in some positions to learn from the world around me. Like I take a lot of enjoyment in going to places where I can help and people are struggling, like Flint, Michigan or Standing Rock, and all those things influence what I do. So I'm ready to get back out into the world and start talking to people again.
You were supposed to tour with Justin Bieber, right? And that got canceled.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
I think he was just exhausted. I believe he did a statement.
Do you know him well?
I know him decently well, and I read a statement that he made a couple days ago, just saying that he wants to put his health at the top of his priority list, and I respect that.
Any collaborations in the near future? Do you like to collaborate?
I do like to collaborate. I don't know about collaborations in the near future. I've really just been focused on this album right now, but I do have some collaborations that are in the pocket that I'll let go, so.
This album's going to be a big hit, though. All right, we'll play a game of If You Only Knew. I just throw some strangest fan encounter.
A kid in Chicago saw me entering my house last year and was driving a delivery truck. He got out the delivery truck, somehow made it onto my next door neighbor's roof, and then climbed over to my roof. There's a fire law that you can't have a roof locked from the inside for some reason. Makes sense. So he came into my house, and then I come out of my bedroom, maybe in my underwear, and then there's just this dude standing here and he wants to rap for me. And I'm like, get out of my, like, this way. I'm like, I could have, you know, done something bad to you.
What's a superpower you wish you had?
If I could choose one superpower, I would choose the limitless ability, like the movie where he takes the pill that makes him utilize all of his brain. So I would have the superpower of like superhuman intelligence or something, just to be able to use not 10% of my brain.
Guilty pleasure.
Despacito.
The moment you knew you made it.
I think that for me, as an ambitious person, making it is a continuous pursuit. But one time that was significant to me was performing at Lollapalooza in Chicago, major music festival last summer, because when I was a kid, I hurt myself pretty badly sneaking into Lollapalooza, or trying to sneak into Lollapalooza.
And then you got to perform that.
Yeah.
Most underrated aspect of Chicago.
The lake.
First job you ever had?
Scrubbing the chili pot at the organic deli down the street, Z&H.
If you weren't in music, what do you think you'd be doing?
I think I'd probably be in tech.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, or journalism.
Yeah, I thought of writing. Person you could switch places with for a day.
Donald Trump.
Best piece of advice you ever got?
It was about writing music, and it was from a guy named Mike Posner, and he said to tell as much truth in every line as possible.
What was the worst piece of advice?
Do drugs.
Biggest risk you've ever taken?
I guess it was a pretty big risk to, from my family's perspective, to forego going down the educational route and, make a real life out of rap
Did you finish
music.
high school?
Yeah, I did.
Someone from history you'd like to take to lunch?
Alexander Hamilton.
Great. Did you see the show?
A bunch of times, 3 times, 4 times.
Place we'd like to find you on your day off?
Jamaican restaurant, anywhere.
Secret talent?
Karate.
In our final moments, Vic Mensa will be taking your questions from social media. The album is the autobiography. We'll be right back. Some questions for Vic Mensa from our social media. TJ Seifert, is there an artist you're dying to collaborate with?
Andre 3000 of Outkast.
He also asked, what was the most difficult song to write off the new album?
The most difficult song to write was a song called Down for Some Ignorance, I think, just because the subject matter was so close to me still that it was kind of like hard to be objective and step outside the room, per se.
Joe Gailey on the Larry King Now blog. We see a lot of musicians jump in front of the camera. Do you have a desire to act?
I want to do a film about the current state of Chicago because I feel like people have tried and it hasn't been right.
You want to direct a film or be in a film or what?
I'll probably be in the film.
Are you thinking about working on it?
I've been thinking about it. I got some titles swimming around in my head.
Ken Dawson on the Larry King Now blog. What was Kanye West like to work with, and do you plans to work with him again?
Kanye West is a great collaborator. He really has a strength for seeing the strengths in other people. So that's something that I learned from him. And the question was, do I plan to work with him in the future? Yes.
Is he easy to work with?
Nothing about Kanye is easy, I think that's clear. But that doesn't take away from the genius of his process.
Chris on the Larry King Now blog. I was at your Lollapalooza set with Chance the Rapper. What was it like to be out on the stage with him in your home city? And any plans to work with Chance on new music?
That was good. I felt that was just a necessary moment of unity for our city because it's often very divided and being picked apart by a lot of people. And yes, we've been talking about making new music.
What's special about his talent?
It's unique as an artist, and I grew up with Chance, so I know him well as a person, and I think that he's dedicated to just a lot of real things, a lot of things that people aren't bringing into popular music. Mikey on the Larry King Now blog.
Would you ever want to branch out of rap, work with an artist from a different genre?
100%. I definitely do a lot of collaborations with people outside of rap. I don't really see music so genre-based. Like, I really collaborate more often with people outside of rap.
Okay, and finally, KJM1016 on Twitter. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
There's things I'm trying to build right now. Schools in Chicago. 10 years, that should be 10 albums. So about 10 albums, 10 albums in.
You're a major figure, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Big thanks to my guest, Vic Mensa. Be sure to pick up a copy of the new album, The Autobiography. It's available now. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things, and I'll see you next time.